amazing remedies that we can use. He wants us to share that with our neighbors, with our friends, and they can be blessed also. So I pray that you're inspired by this song also.
The gentle healer came into our town today. He touched blind eyes and their darkness left to stay. But more than the blindness, he took their sins away. The gentle healer came into our town today. The gentle healer came into our town today. He spoke one word, that was all he had to say. And the one who had died just rose up straight away. The gentle healer came into our town today. Oh, he seems like just an ordinary man, with dirty feet and rough but gentle hands. But the words he says are hard to understand, and yet he seems like just an ordinary man. The gentle healer, he left our town today. I just looked around and found he'd gone away. Some folks from town who followed him, they say that the gentle healer is the truth, the life, the way.
Thank you, Heather and Victoria. That was beautiful, wasn't it? Beautiful. Thank you again. You guys blessed us. Well, for our final session this evening, we've got Barbara again, and we're going to go ahead and invite her up, and we'll be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we live in an incredible body created by that gentle healer, and it was created to heal. But today there is so much sickness, and the question is why? Why is there so much sickness? There's so much sickness because the body's not given the right conditions, and many people today are unaware of those basic conditions required for healing. The body runs according to precision balance. Whether you start at the head, go through every single organ of the body, down to the feet, precision balance is actually essential for the proper running. But there is one area that is majorly out of balance for so many people today, men and women alike. And what I find is that it's often the missing link. And when a person says to me, I'm going to bed early, I'm drinking my water, I'm eating nourishing food, I'm exercising, and yet I'm not well. And when they tell me their symptoms, I know straight away it's a hormonal imbalance. So what would be some of the symptoms of a female having a hormonal imbalance? Early periods, do you know normal is 16 to 18, and we hardly ever hear that today. We're getting young girls that are starting to menstruate at the age of 9. It's almost part of their childhood's been taken away from them. Another symptom can be very heavy periods, very painful periods, premenstrual tension, endometriosis, fibroids in the uterus, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It can be thyroid problems. It can be tumours in the breast. It can be breast cancer. It can be uterine cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer. It also can be osteoporosis. It can be depression. These are just some of the symptoms of a female having a hormonal imbalance. What about a man? Yes, men have hormones too. And what would be the symptoms of a man having a hormonal imbalance? Low sperm count. How many couples are struggling to have children today? Low sperm count, also penile dysfunction, inability to hold an erection. Current figures in Australia, about 50% of men over the age of 50 are struggling with this one. Why? There's always a reason. We're going to look at that reason this evening. Also, with a man having a hormonal imbalance, prostate problems. And prostate is a word we didn't even, it wasn't almost in our vocabulary 40 years ago, but unfortunately it's very common today. And remember Proverbs 26 verse 2 that states that the curse causeless shall not come. There is a reason. There is a reason, and you can have 50 different people, and it can be different reasons in every case, and it can also be different symptoms in every case. So let's begin by having a look at how the hormones are made. And our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. And cholesterol is a very important lipid in the human body. If the cholesterol levels go below 150, that person's going to be struggling to be able to make their hormones. Our cholesterol levels should really not go under 200. And on Saturday afternoon, I'm going to look at the heart in detail. So from cholesterol, our body makes pregnenolone. And it is from pregnenolone that a very important hormone is made, pregnenolone. And such an important hormone is progesterone. The progesterone is given the nickname mother. And the reason why progesterone is given the name mother is because from progesterone, the sons are made. From progesterone, the daughters are made. So the son is testosterone. That's the main male hormone. And the female hormones are called estrogen. There's one mother, there's one son, but there are about 3 estrogens, and we'll look at that in more detail in a minute. From progesterone, also the adrenal hormones are made, and the adrenal hormones are our fight and flight hormones. And these hormones work together to maintain proper balance in the body, but the one that maintains the balance is progesterone, which is why progesterone is called mother hormone. Now we're going to have a look at the monthly cycle, and I want to show you how these hormones work together in the monthly cycle. It's a 28-day cycle, and I'm going to describe this monthly cycle like a dance, because it is like a dance. And Dr. John Lee, probably the first doctor that really blew the whistle on what was happening with hormones, he likens it to a dance because different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. And progesterone in this monthly dance is going to be wearing a green outfit. And one of progesterone's main roles, one of the roles, is that of happy hormone. And the other hormone is estrogen. And estrogen's probably main role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator means causes massive cell growth. And it is estrogen that causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if estrogen levels remain high, the beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape the other way. I liken estrogen to fire and water, good slave, bad master. So day 1 of the monthly cycle is the day that a woman begins to menstruate. And day 1 of the monthly cycle, progesterone levels are low, backstage, so to speak. And day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are also low. But by day 7, estrogen levels are rising. So this second week of this monthly cycle, estrogen is the star player in the monthly dance of the hormones. So let's go to the stage where this monthly dance is played out, and it's the reproductive organs of a woman's body. This is the uterus, this is the cervix, this is the birth canal. These are the fallopian tubes that come off the top of the uterus. And then the ovaries are connected by a ligament down near the base of the uterus. So at this time of the month, with this rise in estrogen, estrogens with its cell proliferator action is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus. Estrogen is also causing massive cell growth in the ovaries, causing eggs to develop. Estrogen is also having an effect in the birth canal, causing a lubricant to be released. Around day 14, sometimes it's 15 or 13, but around that time, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries, and the filaments on the end of the fallopian tube pick up the egg, and the egg begins moving up, up, up in the fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes are ever moving like this, causing the egg to move up. Now the hole where the egg bursts forth, it develops a blister, and that blister is called corpus luteum. It's a very important blister, and I've written it in green, and the reason it's so important is it's the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating every month? Because when she ovulates every month, corpus luteum is made. And when corpus luteum is made monthly, then mother hormone, progesterone hormone, is maintained. And so by around day 14, we've got a rise in progesterone. So coming into this third week, progesterone is the star player in the monthly dance. And this week, this third week, estrogen's given the message, you can go backstage now. We don't need so much estrogen now. Got the blood nest, got the egg, got the lubricant. But what effect does this rise in progesterone have? Progesterone has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus, putting the finishing touches on the uterus. Progesterone also heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month, to the point of increasing her sexual desire at this time of the month. But progesterone has another effect, and that is on the cervix. Let me magnify the cervix. The cervix is like a soft little cushion with a hole in the middle. Let's look at it from sideways. From sideways, you've got these soft sides and a mucus plug. But with the rise in progesterone at this time of the month, the mucus plug goes and the sides of the cervix come up a little tighter, and a special form of lubricant is released around the cervix. And this lubricant is designed specifically to facilitate the entry of sperm. So you can see the stages set for the entry of man. Did you know that between 2 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation? It's the smallest cell in the human body, and sometimes up to half come straight back out. And so if the sperm meet this top cervix, very difficult to gain entry, but it's such a small cell that a few usually get through. But if the sperm meet this cervix, this lubricant literally grabs the sperm and shoots it up into the uterus. And it's got a long way to go. Long way to go. And some of them go down the wrong road and they die and get absorbed away into the body. But some go down the right road and they've found their prize. The covering of the egg looks like this. It's got folds, and the sperm has to nudge its way into one of those folds. Once it does get into the egg the other folds shut tight and chemicals are released that can kill the other sperm. It's a fascinating process, what we know about conception now. So what happens if there is conception? If conception happens, then progesterone levels can soar 200%. Don't we often say when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming? But what if she's not? What if she doesn't feel great when she's pregnant? It could indicate that she's lacking progesterone, and we're going to explore why that would be. But first of all, let's have a look at estrogen. Estrogen is not one hormone, it's three. So estrone is called E1, and estradiol is called E2, and estriol is called E3. So mother hormone progesterone has three daughters. Estrone and estradiol both have strong cell proliferator action, whereas estriol is the delicate estrogen. And it is estriol levels that rise in pregnancy. So a comment on sperm for a moment. Sperm is an alien to woman's body. So when sperm enters woman's body, her immune system rises to attack. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So that when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system, so sperm survives. But woman's body has memory. Every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack, and then it says, oh, it's husband, let's just stand back. Because it has familiarity. Woman's body has familiarity. All our body does. We've got an incredible body that has an ability to adapt and adjust. And this can be good news. In some cases, unfortunately, it can be bad news. But of course, in this state, it's very good news. But can you imagine how devastating it can be on a woman's immune system if she has multiple partners? And also how dangerous it can be in the area of anal sex because of the immune suppressant property of sperm. But if no conception takes place, then by day 26, progesterone levels are dropping right down. And if no conception takes place, by day 26, estrogen levels drop right down. And when both of these levels drop, the blood supply to the uterus is cut, and when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, the blood nest comes away, and we're once again back at day one of the monthly cycle. That's what the cycle should look like, but unfortunately today it doesn't often look like that. So of course the million-dollar question is why? Remember Proverbs 26 verse 2, that the curse causeless shall not come. There is always a reason. No problem happens without a reason. So what causes a disruption in the hormones? It was 1957. The first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. What is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. And in Mexican wild yam, there is a plant chemical called diosgenin. And diosgenin, in a laboratory, can be easily converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that our body makes. But the pharmaceutical company can't patent that. They can only patent something they create, something new. So they add a few more atoms, and they did this in the 50s, 60s, add a few more atoms and came up with a synthetic estrogen. And this synthetic estrogen is what was originally in the pill. But within about 15 years, it was started to be revealed, we've got a problem. We've got a problem because estrogen levels are getting too high in women's bodies. And when estrogen gets too high as a cell proliferator, that's causing a wandering of this endometrium through the abdominal wall. It's called endometriosis. And endometriosis can be a very painful condition because when these levels drop and the bloodness comes away, all of these pockets bleed, but they've got nowhere to go. And that causes excruciating pain in the lady. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, causing massive cell growth in the uterus. These are the fibroids. These are cysts on the ovaries. These are polyps in the birth canal, in the cervix. This is growths in the breast, even breast cancer. So they had to quickly make some adjustments. And so they added a few more atoms and came up with a synthetic progesterone. It's called progestin or progestone. Did that fix the problem? No, it hasn't fixed the problem, because now this synthetic progesterone competes with our progesterone on the receptor side. Elaine Hollingsworth, she's passed now, but she was a health writer in Australia. She claims that the pill is the cause of the mass murder of millions of women. Strong words. What's she talking about? Well, let me show you why she says that. And by the way, the Australian Cancer Foundation have stated that estrogen is a known human carcinogen. In other words, it can cause cancer. But again, it's got to be, it's not a problem when it's in its balance. So let me show you how the pill disrupts that. So number one hormone should always be progesterone, mother, and number two hormone, estrogen. But month after month on the pill, and how does the pill work? These synthetic hormones go into the biochemical pathway that your body uses to make hormones, and it causes a disruption. And the body thinks, what's going on? Must be pregnant. And so because the body thinks it's pregnant, it doesn't release the egg. And if the egg's not released, corpus luteum's not made. So what's happening to progesterone? Progesterone's going down. The levels are dropping. And what's happening to estrogen, which is the synthetic in the pill? It's starting to rise. And we now have a problem, sadly, too common today. It's called estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. Good slave, bad master is now the master. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, causing these growths in all the reproductive organs, in the uterus, in the ovaries, in the cervix, in the breast. But a few other things are happening. Estrogen opposes thyroid function. How many women were on the pill for 5 years when they were teens, 20s, and now they're in the 50s and they've been diagnosed with thyroid problems? Remember, the curse causeless shall not come. No problem happens without a cause. There is always a cause. One lady said to me, no, Barbara, that was 30 years ago. I said, 30 years ago, the hormones were thrown out and they're still out. But something else is happening. Where's progesterone? Down here. How does the woman feel a week before her periods? She's going to bite your head off. I said to one lady, do you get premenstrual tension? She said, no, I just hate my husband for a week every month. She's got it. And by the way, how does she feel about herself? She hates it. But something else is happening, and that is the bones. There are two types of cells in the bones. There's osteoblast. Osteoblast basically means new bone. Blast is new and osteo is bone. And the other type of bone cell is osteoclast. Osteoclast takes away the old bone and osteoblast builds the new bone. And how this has been affected by the hormones is it's the osteoclast that's stimulated by estrogen, and it's the osteoblast that's stimulated by progesterone. So in the original drawing, of estrogen here and progesterone there. That works beautifully in the bones. The osteoclasts take away the old bone, and then in comes the progesterone and builds the new bone and gives us strong bones. But in the new equation, sadly, with estrogen way up here, too many cells are being taken away, and with progesterone down here, not enough new cells are being built in the bone. What's that called? Osteoporosis. How many women are on the pill in their teens, 20s, and now in their 40s, 50s being diagnosed with osteoporosis? So can you see how big this is? In her book, Hormone Heresy, Cheryl Selman, she's another author that's blown the whistle on this hormone debacle. So in Hormone Heresy, she shows very clearly the things that I'm showing you here. But also, Dr. John Lee, he's written a book called What Your Doctor May Not Tell You About Menopause. Even though he's passed now, you can Google Dr. John Lee and you can still see some podcasts by him. Very interesting. So the pill is one of the main causes for this hormone disruption. Because if a woman's on the pill 5, 6, 7 years before she gives birth to her baby, what sort of gene pool regarding hormones is she giving to her babies? No wonder we've got so many young men with low sperm count or penile dysfunction. No wonder we've got so many young women in their 30s and 40s. Not only the wandering of the endometriosis, not only the fibroids in the uterus, not only the polycystic ovarian syndrome, but breast cancer. My son James, at the age of 35, two of his best friends lost their wives from breast cancer, and they're in their 30s. So the pill. And the woman is now going through menopause, and she's struggling. She's having hot flashes. She's got weight gain. She's depressed. She has no desire for sex. She's of all women most miserable. She goes to the doctor and he gives her hormone replacement therapy. Well, she's happy because the hot flashes stopped. But what she does not realize is that these synthetic hormones are causing further disruption. Instead of causing all the blood to rush to the skin, causing the hot flushes, it's now concentrating on her breasts. 6 years later, she's got a lump in her breast. She's got breast cancer. The doctor takes her off HRT immediately. Why? He knows it can cause breast cancer. And you say, why do you do it? He said, well, she was suffering and it brought her relief, and not every woman will get breast cancer. I don't know about you, but if I was given a choice, hot flushes or breast cancer, what's the choice? Hot flushes, please. It's not going to kill me. But what you're going to find out today is how you can conquer hot flushes naturally with some simple herbs. But there are some women that have never been on the pill or HRT. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? It's the growth stimulants. If it's in the chicken, it's in the egg. We had a cattle farmer's wife attend our program. She said, once a month, the pharmaceutical companies knock on our door pushing the growth stimulant for our cows. She said, we don't do it, but most do, because you can get the cow to market quicker. That's more money. She said, they tell you when to stop giving the growth stimulant so it's not picked up in the blood test. Mightn't be picked up in the blood test, but it's still in the tissues. Well, what about fish? Well, when you've got 80% of women on the pill or HRT, the sewage goes out to sea, the fish are feeding on the sewage. They're finding fish today that are having reproductive problems. They're finding male fish with female tendencies, vice versa. And the fish isn't the end of the food chain. The humans that eat the fish. It's in the meat, it's in the product. But there's some people that have been vegetarians all their life, never been on the pill, and they've got obvious hormone disruptions. So then we come to plastics. When I was a little girl of the 50s, 60s, when I went to school, our sandwiches were in greaseproof paper in a brown paper bag. The milk was delivered at the door in a glass bottle. Everything was in paper. And my clothes were cotton, except for winter, I'd have a woolly jumper on. But what is it today? There are so many plastics. There are so many chemicals. So with the plastics, they contain something that mimics estrogen. In the molecular structure of estrogen, there's a phenyl ring. And that phenyl ring unlocks the door to get estrogen into the estrogen receptor site on the cell. And so the chemicals they put in plastics today have the phenyl ring. One is nonylphenol. I remember when my brother got his first car, it was a second-hand car, the dashboard was cracked. And sometimes the seats would be cracked. Have you noticed they don't crack anymore? They don't crack because that vinyl has nonylphenol in it. It softens the plastic. Another one is bisphenol A, which is BPA. And you might have seen my bottle hanging around. It's a plastic bottle, but it's hard plastic. It's BPA free. So you can get some safe plastics. They're usually hard and they're BPA free. So these two chemicals that are in plastics to soften the plastic, they both have that phenyl ring. Do you know what that means? That phenyl ring unlocks the door to get into the estrogen receptor on the cell. So being exposed to these plastics can get the estrogen up. They're estrogen mimickers. They mimic estrogen in the body. Chemicals, there are 3 fabrics that were created in a chemical laboratory. That's nylon, acrylic, polyester. Nylon, acrylic, and polyester are chemical fabrics. So especially women, be careful what's touching your body. Carefully look at your undergarments, and most women's undergarments are made from one of those 3 chemical fabrics. It's time to go back to the natural fibre, to the linen, to the silks, to the cottons, to the wools. And there are 3 fabrics that are made out of wood. One is modal, it's the cellulose spun from the birch tree. Also viscose, viscose is made from bamboo. And rayon is also made from a wood pulp. It is true that they are softened using chemicals, but all you have to do when you buy them is wash them and put them in the sun for the day. And that will detox any chemicals. And when you buy cotton, you can't wear it because cotton is one of the most sprayed crops. So even when you buy cotton, you've got to wash it, hopefully put it in the sun for a day. Yes, it's time to have clotheslines again. The sun detoxifies, it purifies. So please carefully look at your home, look at your exposure to chemicals, look at what you're washing your clothes with, look at what your personal care products, look at what you're eating, what you're cleaning your bathroom with, because all of these chemicals, little by little, like the dripping tap on a stone, can be bit by bit disrupting those hormones. Also herbicides, insecticides, pesticides. One of the worst is Roundup. And Roundup, Roundup's active component is glyphosate. And glyphosate kills weeds by acting on their hormones. So if you eat a potato that's not organic, I can promise you it'll have some Roundup in there because they kill off the plant to be able to harvest the potatoes. What do they kill it with? They kill it with Roundup. So please, as much as possible, buy organics. I think it's impossible to totally eliminate plastic because it's very handy stuff. as you can see when I did my natural remedy seminar. But as much as possible, you limit your body's exposure to it. And also what you're storing your food in. I'm very thankful for the magnificent food we've been given, but also the lovely paper plates rather than the plastic plates, as much as possible. And go organic as much as possible and get the chemicals out of your home as much as possible, and have natural fibres next to your skin. All of this has an effect, but there's something else, and that is there's a mold waste called zearalenone. And zearalenone is a mold waste that has an estrogenic effect. I was reading that in the 1980s they were using anabolic steroid called Zearalol, and it was made out of zearalenone. And they were giving it to cows as growth stimulants. And this was happening in one of the South American countries. And they noticed that little boys and girls were going through puberty at 5 or 6 years of age. And their mothers had been eating meat in pregnancy that had the growth stimulant Zearalol made from zearalenone, which is a mycotoxin, a mold waste. Yeah. Not every country checks their grain for zearalenone levels. They usually check it for aflatoxin, but not zearalenone. And zearalenone has an estrogenic effect on the body. So reducing your grain content, especially the wheat, can also help balance those hormones. But what about soy? There's often a question mark on soy. So let me give you the story on soy. Here are 3 cells, and here are 3 estrogen receptor sites on the cell. And this one is xenoestrogen. So what's xenoestrogens? These are the xeno. These are all xenoestrogens, because xenoestrogens, you could say, are estrogen mimickers. So when they come into the body, they have the effect of estrogen. And xenoestrogens are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogen. So how big is that? They're big. So how big is the human estrogen? Human estrogen just sits nicely in the receptor site on the cell. But human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than the plant estrogen. So how big's plant estrogen? It's just a tiny little thing that just slips into the lining of the receptor site. Now, which is the one we most need to fear? It is certainly not the plant. It is the xeno. And the plants that have these natural estrogens are soy and also red clover. But remember Psalm 104 verse 14, that God gave herbs for the service of man. This plant estrogens come into the receptor site and they knock. And they say, "Excuse me, cell, do you need me?" And the cell says, "No, thank you very much." So it'll just sit at the door. And the beauty of that is it protects that receptor site from the xeno. And remember, these xenoestrogens, they've got the phenyl ring, they've got the key. They just go straight in. They've got the key that lets them straight into the cell. So soy is only a problem if it's been grown with Roundup, if it's been grown with chemicals, if it's been genetically modified. And the soybean predominantly used in America today is called Roundup Ready. Number 1's called Roundup Ready. It's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. And a farmer told me this. He said 5 times before market, the whole field is sprayed. All the weeds die and the soybean keeps going. That's scary. So that soybean, number 1 problem is it's been genetically modified. Number 2 problem is it's laden with the xenoestrogens, the chemicals. That soybean will increase breast cancer. That soybean will increase prostate cancer. So if you eat soy, make sure it's not been genetically modified. Oh, that's right, in America and Australia they don't put it on the labels. But if you buy organic, you can be assured it hasn't been genetically modified. It's a pity to throw the soybean out because it works very nicely with the body. Just make sure it's organic. The other plant that has natural estrogens is red clover. Now, when a woman has had breast cancer, she's put on a drug called tamoxifen or a similar one, and she said it's an estrogen, well, she's told it's an estrogen blocker. Do you remember one of the questions I think we had before? If a woman has had breast cancer, should she be taking an estrogen blocker? And I said no, because tamoxifen is a drug with its own side effects. But what the lady can take is red clover, because red clover, it blocks that receptor site. So it basically does the same thing, but it's got no bad side effects. And you can take red clover as a tablet or capsule, supplement form. So that's the truth on soy. A friend of mine did her nutrition thesis on soy. So people are always asking her, what's the truth on soy? She said, it's real easy. God made it good, man mucked it up, end of story. So just make sure if you eat soy, it has not been genetically modified or grown with poisons. So how do we turn this around? Number one, eliminate. If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. Stop the pill. So how are we going to stop having babies popping up everywhere? Well, my daughters tell me that they chose when they were going to have each one of their babies because they had learned the natural method of birth control. Sex is two-part, contraception should be two-part. The woman's role, I believe, is to know when she's ovulating, and her body will give her 3 signs, and one sign is her temperature changes. So it's as simple as a woman taking her temperature before she gets out of bed every day. It'll be like this, and then it'll go up onto a higher plane. So this is a month's chart. And when it drops and goes up onto a higher plane, that is her indication that she has begun to ovulate. And most women will ovulate around day 14. So that's one sign. Apparently, you can get apps on your phone. My daughter Jessica showed me one day, she said, Mum, look, I got this app on my phone. It tells me if I'm safe and when I'm not safe. She puts the information in. Now, the second sign is that the lubricant in the birth canal will change. When the estrogen's high, it is thick and white and not very profuse. But when progesterone levels rise, it becomes clear and stringy and very profuse. So it's a matter of a woman testing her vaginal lubricant every day and charting it. The third sign is her cervix changes. Now, at first, a woman's got nothing to compare it to, but if she tests her cervix every day, she starts to see the changes, and she will find that those 3 signs usually come together on this 3rd week. But looking at those signs, it allows her to know when she's ovulating and when she's not. So she says in the 2nd week to her husband, I'm safe. In the 3rd week, I am not safe. In the 4th week, I'm safe. So when she is not safe, that's when her husband either masters the art of withdrawal or he wears a condom. And it is in that way that a woman does not have to take those dangerous pills or IUDs or the patches on the arm, which are all damaging her hormones, huge disruptions in the hormones, and as I've explained, all the corresponding problems that they cause. In fact, my daughter Jessica was in the car with some friends and they were talking about how when they travel, they just take the pill non-stop, then they don't get a period. It's great. And then they looked at Jess and they said, you don't take the pill, do you? And she said, no. They said, why not? She said, it's like this, buy now, pay later. You choose your hard. And paying later, the effort put in to determining when you're ovulating is nowhere near the results of the dangers of this pill. Not only interfering with the hormones of the next generation, but also interfering with the hormonal imbalance to the point where it's causing thyroid problems, osteoporosis, depression, and all the growths that we're seeing. It's back to the choose your hard. Eliminate the meat and its products. If you like meat and its products, must be organic. I do not believe it's safe today. In fact, never has meat been so unsafe because of the amount of chemicals and the amount of growth stimulants, and there's a whole lot of other situations that it can create. And as we saw in our last lecture, even in the gastrointestinal tract, it doesn't fare very well because we've got such a long gastrointestinal tract. Plastic, I think it's impossible to eliminate plastic, but as much as possible, get it out of your home, out of your life, especially regarding touching your skin and also regarding what your food is stored in. One of the worst is leftover soup into a plastic takeaway container, because heating the plastic, it gives off more of those xenoestrogens. And those xenoestrogens have the strong cell proliferator action. Get the chemicals out of your home, go organic as much as possible, greatly reduce your carbohydrates, especially your wheats, because wheat is such a commonly grown crop. It's stored in silos, and it's in the silos where the mold growth can happen. And zearalenone is a mold waste that can grow in stored grain. Number one, turn the tap off. Number two, our liver has the ability to release excess estrogen from the body, and it'll do it down one of two pathways. And the pathway that eliminates the excess estrogen is called the hydroxy-2 pathway. And what stimulates that is the cabbage family. And the cabbage family contain a plant chemical called indoles. And those indoles stimulate the pathway where the body eliminates excess estrogen. Also vitamin B, another reason why we should have good gut flora. Remember, that helps to make your vitamin Bs. The highest source of vitamin Bs is in your raw nuts and seeds. But if someone has a hormonal imbalance, they may initially need to supplement, and B6, B9, and B12 are the 3 B vitamins that stimulate the liver to release excess estrogen. Flaxseed contains a plant chemical called lignans, and lignans stimulate the hydroxy-2 pathway. Licorice, if you've got high blood pressure, forget the licorice because it can get the blood pressure up. So number one, you turn the tap off. Number two, stimulates the liver to release excess estrogen. And number three is the wild yam cream. The wild yam cream contains the plant chemical diosgenin. And when that cream is applied to the skin, so what one can do to apply this wild yam cream is apply it on the inside of arms one time, inside of thighs another time, abdomen another time, chest another time. So you alternate the sites of application. And what a woman does is she applies it for 3 weeks a month. And she applies it for these 3 weeks where she's not menstruating. As soon as the menstruation begins, stop the application of the cream. And so the fat cells take up the diosgenin in the wild yam cream, and it stimulates this pathway that the body uses to make progesterone. So what this wild yam cream does is it works with those biochemical pathways in your body to reinstate mother hormone. And when mother hormone is reinstated, mother hormone immediately brings estrogen back down where she should be. And progesterone has a protective effect on her son. So any man with testosterone problems, it's important for him to apply the yam cream to boost mother hormone to once again keep testosterone in the levels where it should be. Because when testosterone gets out of balance, that can cause inflammation of the prostate gland. How long would the yam cream be applied for? A woman applies it twice a day, 3 weeks a month. And if she's not menstruating anymore, she just chooses 1 week where she doesn't apply it. Some women choose the last week or the first week of the month to make it easier. How long would she apply it for? Usually for at least 1 year. Now, it might have taken 20 years to get out of balance, but it won't take 20 years to get it back into balance. But it might take 1 year. One lady'd been on the pill for 7 years before she had her babies. She didn't know. We didn't know, did we? No one said. No one said there was a danger. What women were told is, this is wonderful, you will now have sexual freedom, but they didn't tell the whole truth. And that's why on the first day I showed you that the pharmaceutical company is deceptive, not as it seems. And so little by little, taking that pill has thrown the hormones out. And that's why you must never beat yourself up over this, because you did not know. No one told you. But it is one of the main causes for this disruption. If a woman's been on the IUD, that releases hormones. On the patch they put in their arms, that releases the hormones. In fact, one man said to his wife, if you don't get that patch out, I'm leaving. Because within 2 weeks of having the patch in her arm, she's accusing her husband of having an affair every day. You see, once mother hormone's been displaced, the adrenal hormones, your fight and your flight, your mood hormones get out of control. Once progesterone's displaced, there's no more happy hormone, then there's irritability, there's anxiety, there's sleeplessness. And she went to the doctor and said, take this out, my husband is going to leave and I don't get this out. And the doctor said, no, it's only been there for 2 weeks. And she said, you get it out or I will gouge it out of my arm. He said, righto, righto. There. One 15-year-old girl had it in her arm, this hormone patch, and she bled every day for 10 months. Yeah. The pharmaceutical company is going to have a lot to answer for on Judgment Day. Yeah. Well, it won't be a company, will it? Yeah. But remember, I'm the master of my destiny. I'm the one that chooses what I do and what I do not do to my body. But the good news is, even though the hormones can be majorly out of balance, they can be brought back into balance with the simple herbs, specifically the wild yam. Dr. John Lee shows if you eat the yam, you lose 400% of the active components. It's far more effective to be applied as a cream to the skin. What age can you use it? I think it's a good idea to wait until a girl is menstruating. But when I was in the Bronx teaching a few years ago, I put a 9-year-old girl on the yam cream because she'd started her periods at 9. I met a 92-year-old woman who was on the cream for her osteoporosis. So whether you're between 9 and 90, you can certainly try this cream. What if you apply the cream and you don't need it? Well, can you have too much happy hormone? I'd like to suggest we don't have enough happy hormone today. There is no toxic dose of progesterone, but there is definitely a toxic dose of estrogen. I've seen women conquer their thyroid problems by applying the yam cream, boosting mother hormone, bringing estrogen down, and so now the thyroid can start to function properly. I've seen many, especially women, conquer their depression. And with conquering depression, the fourth one is the basic laws of health, which I have put in the acronym Sustain Me. Getting to bed earlier, starting to exercise, eating nourishing food, drinking more water, easing off the stimulants. The coffees and the sugars do a good job at contributing to the disruption of the hormones. So implementing those laws of health, and we're going to be talking about depression tomorrow afternoon, implementing the laws of health and balancing the hormones, boosting progesterone, happy hormone, we have seen many able to ease off their antidepressants and once again have quality of life. Because most antidepressants have as their side effects depression and suicidal thoughts. Did you know that? I was very happy to see a book out there called Depression: A Way Out by Dr. Neil Nedley. Excellent book, very good book. And I'll talk about that book and also about that doctor a little more tomorrow when we talk about the mind. What about a man? Cheryl Selman, in her book Hormone Heresy, she likens the difference between men and women, and there are a lot of differences, but she explains it like this. She says, men are like the sun. They rise every morning, conquer the day and go down at night. But she said, women are like the moon. Sometimes they're full, sometimes they're half, sometimes they're a slither. And so men are not cyclic, so they don't have a break. So when a man applies the yam cream, he applies it twice a day, morning and night, and he does not have a break. Why would a man apply the cream? He would apply the cream for low sperm count, for penile dysfunction. I don't know how else to explain this, but this is what a man said to me. He said, this cream just puts lead in my pencil. He said, I'm not performing like I was when I was 20, but I'm better than I was. Also, I have seen men conquer their prostate problems. I've seen men conquer prostate cancer by implementing the basic principles in Self-Heal by Design, doing the 8 laws of health, and applying the yam cream to boost progesterone to once again have a protective effect on testosterone. One man attended our program in his late 60s. He had prostate cancer, and he was on a hormone injection from the doctor. Every 3 months he had to have a hormone injection. Notice he didn't have to, but he felt he had to because the doctor said he had to. But when he came to our retreat, he discovered some alternatives. He heard the lectures, he heard about the importance of the laws of health. He stopped his coffee, stopped his nightly red wine, started to drink more water, started an exercise program, started to eat more plants, go to bed earlier, and he started to apply the wild yam cream. His wife rang me, so excited 10 months later. You see, this hormone injection, he developed breasts, he was getting hot flushes, and the testosterone was still out of balance. So 10 months later, she rang me. She said, it's so exciting. She said, his breasts have gone down. He's not getting hot flushes anymore. And the testosterone levels are the best they've been for years. Isn't that incredible? This is the body that we live in. All he did was he gave the body the right conditions, and it automatically started to balance itself. Because there is only one wonder cure, and that is the human body. And what the herbs do, what the lifestyle and the dietary changes do, what the water treatments do, they just work with the body. And when we start to apply the right conditions to the body, it automatically begins to do what it was designed to do, and that is maintain balance and keep health. That is the good news. In fact, I could spend many more hours almost telling you story after story of incredible results we've seen when people start giving their body the right conditions. And in my book, Sustain Me, I've endeavoured to give a story at the end of every chapter to illustrate how these simple remedies help. If you go to official barbara'o'neill.com. There are several yam creams that are there. You know, you might have found a yam cream, as long as it doesn't have chemicals and as long as it contains the wild yam, it will have an effect. It'll take you to Jack's OK Be Healthy. She sells some creams. I think there's a comfort cream all on there. And our daughter's Treloon cream from Australia will also be available soon. So you have a variety there to choose from. They are all good, and we are seeing results with them all. And this world is big enough, and there are so many people with hormonal imbalances that we're very glad that there are some options and quite a few of these wild yam creams that you can get. In fact, there was one wild yam cream that was available a few years ago, and for 2 months it wasn't available. And Living Springs, they kept getting phone calls from men going, "Is that cream in yet? My wife needs it. My wife's got to have it." Because what it does is boost progesterone, boosts happy hormone, and brings everything back into balance. That is the good news. And it is that simple, and I'm so glad that it is that simple. And we'll do some questions now.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, we have a few questions here for this evening. Have you used ivermectin? And what are your thoughts on ivermectin for cancer?
I haven't used ivermectin. I will not use ivermectin because I don't believe in drug therapy.
How do you know your hormones are out of balance?
Symptoms. They're symptoms. In fact, the symptoms are varied. Some ladies will say, "Well, I don't have hot flushes," but they've got weight gain, they've got no desire for sex, and some women get migraines. There's a whole lot of symptoms. And if ever a woman was on the pill, it is really imperative, no matter what her age, no matter if it was 30 or 40 years ago, she needs to go on that yam cream for at least a year to rebalance the hormones.
Are there any health supplements you recommend or do not recommend?
I don't recommend any. People say to me, "What supplements do you take?" I don't take any. But if I had a hormonal imbalance, I'd apply the yam cream. If I had reflux, I'd take magnesium. If I had high blood pressure, I would take the hawthorn berry. So there might be supplements that someone would take for various conditions.
Do you use castor oil as a moisturizer on your face?
Do I use castor oil as a moisturizer? Well, I didn't think it was a blessing when I was a teenager and had oily skin. But I see it as a blessing now because my skin is not dry. But sometimes I'll have a little scale. I've got a little scaly bit on the side at the moment. It's probably a skin cancer, so I put castor oil on that every day.
Okay. And what do you use for painful periods?
What do you use for painful periods? You stop the painful periods by balancing the hormones.
Right. And what do you use for low energy?
For low energy, you need to look at the lifestyle and find out why you have low energy. And one of the reasons for low energy can be lack of oxygen. So then you'd have a look at, well, why are you lacking oxygen? It is the way you're breathing. It is the room you're sleeping in at night. Are you getting fresh air? Are you exercising every day? So you'd investigate.
Okay. I have swollen, but it's painless, tonsils as an adult, and mouth tape, but they cause terrible snoring. Any natural help?
Tonsils are part of the lymphatic system, and if they're swollen, there's a reason. They can be swollen as a reaction to inhaling mold. They can be swollen as a reaction to inhaling chemicals, and they also can be swollen as a reaction to allergen foods. And so if someone has swollen tonsils, I suggest stopping wheat, dairy, oats, peanuts, and refined sugar. It can take at least 2 months to see a result. And you can talk to Jacqueline, who had tonsils the size of golf balls, and the doctor just wanted to cut them out. But she changed her lifestyle, changed her food, and she has no problems now.
Tips on treating severe acne.
Severe acne, usually acne begins at puberty. So what's the cause, I should say, of acne? It's a hormonal imbalance. That's one of the many signs and many different signs. So whether it be male or female, I suggest applying the yam cream.
Okay. A friend has just been diagnosed with brain cancer since fighting a tumor in her trachea. Would castor oil help, and how would you apply it?
Castor oil can help. So what you would find out is the area of the head where the tumor is closest to, and you can massage castor oil into that area.
Okay. And that was our last question for this evening.
Okay,
Thank you, Barbara.
thank you. My bottle.
Just a few announcements here that we want to make. As we're planning for Saturday, now, some of you were not here and just come in today, but Barbara has agreed to share her journey, and it's her walk with God, and that's going to be this Saturday at 11 o'clock. Now, if I can see your hands raised, who may want to be attending that session?